Hello everyone, I am Teacher Sherwin. In this video, we are going to learn how to develop and what to consider in creating a conceptual framework in doing your quantitative research. In preparing your research paper as one of the requirements for your course, both in your graduate and undergraduate studies, you are required to reflect the conceptual framework of your study. Let us define first what is a conceptual framework. According to Miles and Huberman, conceptual framework lays out the key factors, constructs or variables, and presumes relationships among them. It is a visual representation of the variables in the study and maps out how these variables are related to each other. It is sometimes used interchangeably with the word model. A researcher should not develop a conceptual framework out of the blue. Consider these two questions once you developed your conceptual framework or model. Number 1, is it based on some type of strong argument or substantiative theory? Or is it a visual representation of the theory itself? Meaning, a conceptual framework is a guide for researchers to provide a visual representation of the theoretical constructs or variables of interest. Before we are going to create a conceptual framework, let us review the purpose of its use. Why create or develop a conceptual framework? Number 1, conceptual framework explain variable relatedness, consistent with the claim of Miles et al. That it depicts a relationship among key variables. Conceptual framework also helps explain, clarify, and justify the use of methods. As a researcher, there are two ways on how to present our conceptual framework. Either graphical or narrative. Probably your institution will require a graphical presentation of your framework with narrative explication to provide clarity on it. Let us consider these sample conceptual frameworks. Are you interested to predict the outcome variable, like, how does y increase in every unit increase of x? Contextually, what is the mortality rate of infants, given the value of immunization rate? You may be also interested on classification. With 7 units of x, does my participants fall into Group A or Group B? Given the level of parental support, will the students continue or stop schooling? What about in testing relationship? In reflecting a relationship framework, it is suggested to use an arrow from independent variable and will point to the dependent variable as presented in Figure A. If a researcher indicates that the relationship is causal, however, it is suggested to use a line when there is a correlation between the two variables, but there is no established cause and effect relationship. What about frameworks with the moderating variable? Example is presented in the figure. Does social support, the moderating variable, significantly moderate the relationship between stress and depression? This example of Cohen and Wills highlighted the moderating effect of the variable social support. Or you might be interested in presenting a framework with a mediating variable. The example of Barron and Kenny highlighted the mediation effect of self-esteem on the relationship between grades and happiness. In this scenario, we might phrase our research question: does self-esteem significantly mediate the relationship between grades and happiness? In this video, we learned how to create conceptual framework.